Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Straight Outta BS podcast. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody that's donated on Patreon or donated financially. That's never expected. That's not the reason I made this channel. But anybody that has donated, I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So thank you for that. Links are in the description for that if anybody's interested in supporting in that way. And I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or addiction or anything like that. So on the count of three, I'm going to do a moment of silence. One, two, three. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Golden. I went to the Cascade School from June of 1990 to June of 1992.
Okay, and walk us through your childhood and what led up to you being sent away.
Okay. Well, I come from parents who are still married. They're in their 80s, so they've been married about 60 years. God, that's a big question. So try to like sum it up, like never really were there ever two parents, like two people who really kind of did it right. You know, my dad was like building his empire, my mom was raising the family. Um, I was molested from the time I was 2.5 to 5.5 by a female nanny that my parents had hired to be a grandmother type, and they had taken my brother, who's almost 3 years older than me, on a trip that they thought I was too little to go, and everybody who has been touched by this topic, you know, I don't need you, I can fill in the blanks. I don't need to go into detail, but just I believe what I was told. I kept my mouth shut and just started suffering in silence and really kind of taking it out of myself. Distorted body image. She told me I was fat, food abuse, all this kind of stuff. Um, and I stopped crying. I was bottled up all the time. My dad says it was like trying to catch a greased pig, to try to get me to talk about what was wrong, but I was like a totally different kid and just totally shut down. You know, come from a wealthy family, always was, you know, everything was provided. Never really had to do anything for myself. Never was really taught anything, except by my dad's parents, my grandpa Frank and my grandma Wanda. And really starting at like the age of 13, just really reckless, sex, drugs, all of it, suicidal attempts, just really like reckless in my behaviors. And so I'm doing a good job. Like, I was raped also during that time. And some domestic violent type stuff, and domestic violent meaning like teenager stuff, and like I just had absolutely no sense of myself. This is key. um so like how I felt inside was an ugly fat trauma troll, and I hated myself. I hated everything about myself, and I come from a family where like the only time I was told like I was pretty was like at a ballet recital or something like that, where it was like a special event, but like no one telling me that, you know, like how we speak now to our children and like build them up. My parents didn't want to have a daughter who was focused on the way that she looked. And because Helen had like told me you're ugly and you're fat and this is happening because these things or whatever, and
Mhm.
no one was countering that, you know. um I felt real bad about myself, you know, and
Yeah.
so which is key. So in high school, you know, I did things I didn't want to do but felt like I had to do in order to keep certain people around, and did a lot of drugs, um put myself in compromising positions. Now I came home at 16, and long story, but I'd been raped, and I came in and I was actually going to try to tell my mom like for the like what was actually happening to me like right then. And but I came in and my clothes were like disheveled, and my mom was in her bathroom, and she's like, "Oh my God, you were raped." But then all of the stuff that tracks in my head about she's not going to believe you, or she's going to figure out that you're already sexually active and somehow go, "God damn it, Stephanie, you did it," because everything's God damn it, Stephanie, I'm the problem. And so um I kept my mouth shut. And anywho, so I got woken up on June 23rd or something like that of 1992. I'm sorry, 1990. Was failing not because I was stupid. I was failing because I didn't go. And and it was like my behavior was so reckless, like I mean, dead, pregnant, something. I mean, it was like the gamut was like kind of on the table in the direction I was headed. So when I say that I earned my seat, I understand my parents were so desperate to do something. And now learning more that I am, I can literally say, like, I got sent to the best of the worst. Okay, you know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah.
like I'm counting my blessings, but because I learned some valuable things from there that I've had to figure out how to like kind of like I call it my fucked up toolbox. Like I have a broken spork. And like most people be like, what the fuck? Like throw that away. I'm like, no, no, no. Like a spork is useless. You can't eat soup, right? And you can't actually effectively stab anything because one of the thingies breaks off. But my broken spork with like one tine is like a stabby. Like, I just figured out how to like repurpose some of the stuff that I learned and like forget like who taught it to me and just figure out how it applies actually, like, moving forward. But so I get told I'm going to go be sent to this place. My options were to either go easy peasy or which yeah, and or with the bounty hunter dude. And I believe my parent, because I mentioned it to my dad the other day, and I mentioned about the one particular company or whatever, it's like got some serious shit, right? Like literally abducting children. My dad kind of gulped. It was like an uncomfortable sound. Um, so anyway, I got sent to Cascade. And I so like I don't know if you know much about Cascade, but program was 2 years and some people did a third year. If you ran away, I was smart because I paid attention and I don't want anything worse to happen where I already
Hmm.
was. But like if you split and made it across category, like man, let's get down maybe to reading, right? Because like Whitmore, they would call like the vroom, vroom, and you go back. You ended up on indefinite dishes and bands, and dishes are like manual labor, like cutting
Yeah.
wood or cleaning or whatever, and then bands is
Child labor. Yeah.
like yeah. And the worst was dishes, man, scrubbing the fucking pots and pans on like a really bad greasy night. The smell of grill, yeah. And bands. So bands was like you didn't exist to anybody else, and no one else existed to you. So you could literally be ending up at like a six top table. And you're on bands with like two people, and like they have the salt and pepper, and you got to say something fucking lame like, hey Joe, so whatever, can you ask the person who doesn't exist to me the person who doesn't exist to me either to pass the fucking motherfucking salt, please?
Yeah.
No. So things were handled totally fucking inappropriately. Like Jordan, if you hurt my feelings and I wanted to like talk to you now, I was not encouraged to do that. I was like hold it and like write it down on a forum request, stick it in a box, and on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for like 3 hours you got your fucking ass handed to you. People were
Yeah.
bouncing across the room. And so my big thing when I got there was like there was a part of me that was hopeful. I remember being up in my room in San Francisco, I'm on watch, with like those rooms where they have the door or whatever. So my parents like keep an eye on me, and they took eventually took the phone out because I was like calling everybody I knew, like numbers I could remember, right? That I actually still have in my head today. But to try to fucking come get me. And I remember like laying there and like just trying to calm the fuck down. And I remember having a little bit of relief and a little bit of hope because it looked like a summer camp, log cabiny type shit, and it was beautiful. And um, so yeah, so
Okay. Yeah, we had a version of bands at our place, except it was called Black Cloud. They put you on Black Cloud and you can't acknowledge, you can't talk to that person. It doesn't matter if you're like we also had like a you had to, you're like in order to talk to somebody, like if you weren't on any fucking if you weren't in any trouble, like you had to be a certain level, like it had to add up to four. So like level twos could talk to level twos because that equals four. Level three could talk to a level one because that equals four. And a level one could talk to a level three because that equals four. But a level one can't talk to a level one because that only equals two. And then like we had a system like that. Yeah, and originally, yeah. So you couldn't, like, if you were level two, like, you could only talk to another level two. You couldn't, like, make friends with, like, a level one and, like,
Okay.
like, try and help, like, yeah. Whatever you wanted to do to level one, you weren't allowed to talk to them because it's only three. So we had a version of that too. And I also wouldn't say that your program was less bad. It was just different. All these programs are just different.
Yeah, different. Yeah, really quickly, we had a level system too. There was your beginning school, middle school, upper school, and then leadership, before you're like out of there. And if you're a beginning school and even I believe middle school too, you had time limits. So like, which is actually pretty smart because you don't want the new kids who are all like, I need to get the fuck out of here, being able to sit for hours upon hours with each other to like formulate some fucking plan, right?
Yeah.
So is you know yeah, and it was different in that like I say it was 97% hell and 3% magical, and the 3% magical was the location, the kids, the friends that I made that I'm still fucking friends with, you know what I mean? Some I'd love to find, some are gone,
Yeah.
too many gone. um and my trek, my 2.5 weeks in the wilderness, which which is completely like given me the gift of whenever I am like at my worst in this inside, I go for my trees. I got to get to the trees and everything just kind of centers and can I get clarity, I calm the fuck down so I can, you know,
Yeah.
not freak. So, you know, listening and learning and asking questions, you know, there's a lot of differences, but there is so much more, in my opinion, similarities amongst the programs. And, I got to spend time with
Yeah.
Ian and Amanda and love, love, love. And that was just incredible. It ended up just being the four of us and just connecting and asking questions and learning, and him sharing about some of the processes and the things that he's working on and stuff because of the way things were done at his program. And it's really resonated with me. So back to the forums really quick. So go back to that ugly fat trauma troll thing. So when I got there, like my character in the truth, where we had to like act out, fucking piece of shit counselors, they like give you the like anyway, mine was Smurfette. And
Okay. Yeah, we had a version of this at our place too.
yeah. And I felt how I felt. I don't know what I look like, okay, because it's still I have no I'm anorexic and I'm recovering bulimic and alcoholic, and I just really trying to find Stephanie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So um but how I felt was this ugly fat trauma troll, and I would get brought into the forums and just rail that I thought I was better than everyone else, thought I was
Yeah.
prettier than everyone else, and I'm like, what the fuck, right? Now, crazy shit. Okay. Crazy shit. Talk about like facing down your demons and fucking getting a big ass win. So, Kelly Dunbar. Anybody with Cascade, you're gonna love her or hate her. I don't know. But she was my very first counselor with Dan Berman, who was a sick motherfucker, and that's the only space I'm going to give that motherfucker. So, it was my first counselor. Okay. And when I got there, she was in the admin building and did my strip search. And then now she's my counselor. And I would share with her how I felt. And then we would get into forums, and especially the family forums on Wednesday, and she'd be laying into me for how I thought I was better than everybody. And I felt so betrayed and hurt that I was sharing this stuff. And it's like, what, you know what I mean? Like, and felt
Yeah.
like there's no name for it back in the 90s, but I guess it was totally gaslit. Like, if
Yeah.
I don't say, okay, yes, I do, you all are fucking ugly donkey balls, and I'm the shit. Will you back the fuck off? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So then
And
they can point at you and be like, see, I told you I was right.
exactly. And then I'm a liar. It's just
Yeah.
like no way to fucking win. So the psychological there. So in February this year, I get a text from Kelly and, hey, and can we talk, whatever. I agree to meet with her, and I say I'm going to a conference to meet her up in Carlsbad and here in San Diego. And I'm stoned, dude. I don't even know what I fucking am walking into. I'm just gonna see Kelly Dunbar at a conference and just deal with it as I'm gonna deal with that in of itself. And and she's like, I see you, I see your socks. I'm like, okay. And she's like, turn around, what does the sign say? And it said NatSap. I think I had get that right. I don't even know what it stands for, but I guess, guys, it's like all of them,
Yeah.
like the good ones, right? All of them. So anyway, really long, 8 hours we spent. I got to talk to people. They were like wanting to hear my story. A lot of them are program kids who are now working in a program that's actually doing some good work. And
Yeah.
Jordan, we got to come back to that because I told you it's hitting real close to home right now for me. But anyway, the very first question Kelly Dunbar had, very first out after hugging and crying, she said, "Did I ever harm you?" And I had to. I'm a recovering alcoholic, accountability, like using, yeah, it's everything. So I had to pause, which was all a little awkward. And I said, no, but you hurt me. And she just owned it, and like trusted. I trusted in that moment, like she gets it. Like any wrongs, any mistakes, any hurts that she has caused anybody, trust me, she hurts over it, you
Yeah.
know? And she shared a little bit about her, and I was welcome into her home with her two young boys. I knew her husband was an alcoholic, and I knew it was rough, but she genuinely cared, but it's just, again, it's like you know, I understand things from a multiple perspectives. It's like these people live in Whitmore. We used to make jokes that like the only form of identification these people have was their belt buckle. You know what I mean? It's a teeny tiny fucking, beautiful, but like a nothing town.
Yeah.
And like everybody's got to feed their family kind of a thing, and like in that, I haven't been able to really watch much of it, but in the program, when she goes and she's talking to the kitchen lady or whatever, and understanding, like, she was earning a paycheck, she had a heart, like I imagine like what some, I remember Lou Nichols was one of my science teachers there, and I believe he like was involved in the creation of styrofoam. And I love Lou Nichols, and he just got me like passionate about science, and he like got me. I felt so smart around him. And one day, and he's passed, and and one day he had the opportunity to sit in one of my family forums, and it happened to be one where I just got ripped to fucking shreds, and I was crying and crying and crying, and Dan Berman's like, forum over, everybody out, it's pizza nights. People like, everybody's eyes are bloodshot and like blood vessels bursting. And I'm by myself sobbing, like feeling like everybody hates me. And people can move the chairs around. So I'm like crying. There's snot everywhere over my face. And it's just me and Lou. And he just pulled me in for a hug. I couldn't even really see. And he just said, I don't know how you kids go through this. So yeah, he's a rad dude. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So so irony, my parents, I'm a single mom, and her dad is out of the picture totally since age 3. She's gonna be 18 on Thursday, and she's not speaking to me. She's not really speaking to anybody. But back in August, my dad said it would be best I didn't come home after a camping trip. And my mom has a great need to be right, and she knows she fucked up. She'll never own it. She was all about accountability for everybody else, but like not for you. And when you try to do it, she's like, God damn it. But anyway, they're housing and taking care of raising my kid, who has not been back in school since they called timeout in March of 2020. A vibrant, outgoing girl, theater, music, dancing, friends, just volleyball, everything. Nothing. She has no friends. Everybody's going to be graduating. She's had no high school experiences, nothing. And my parents will not talk to me really about it because I've gone through like seasons where like I loved Cascade and I hated Cascade. I loved it. And I've, after my meeting with Kelly, I've really been trying to reconcile the two, and like two can exist at the same time, you know? And there's more than one thing is always true. But but back in February, I had, most of that 8 hours was about Cassidy. And she has a program, and but she's really professional about it. She's like, listen, I'm just gonna give you the information. Here's the name of the therapist, and let me know if I can help any further. And then stepped off and like gave me some professional yet personal distance, which I appreciated. And we're trying to figure this out. So my parents, anything coming from Stephanie has got to be shit. So me trying to like, so I go back to like, you guys stand beside your decision to send me Cascade. So, trying to like validate myself in their eyes, so they don't see the fucking 65-pound fucking alcoholic, food, like whatever. And so I had broached the subject, and her therapist is a piece of shit. That's a whole nother fucking podcast. And so, because she used to be my therapist, and she's transference has happened. It's just all messed up. But anywho, my parents weren't open to even talk about residential or even switching therapists with the information that I got from Kelly. And I know it's baffling. Like, how could you possibly? Well, there has to be something to help, and I got to start looking, but I'm not going to waste any professional's time when I'm not working right now. I'm broke as fuck. And my dad's footing the bill for everything. So I'm, like, you know, I'm at their mercy. Right. So, um, so anyway, the other day, my mom now says that they're entertaining the idea of a residential treatment program, but they're not willing to like talk to me about my actual experience. They'll hear like the roundy round, but they won't actually hear details. They won't watch anything having to do with troubled teen and like and so, yeah, I hear my mom and like validating herself, like, I told you you were gonna have one just like you. And it's like, fuck you, like, how would anybody ever wish that to their child? Like, but anyway,
Yeah,
so
how did you lose did you lose custody of your kid? How
no,
did you
no, she's okay. So when this happened, she's 17, right? So, and then I was going with this, like, so again, I come from, um, my boyfriend Brian, he called it like, I can't remember exactly what he called it, but it was you're like your your safety net of death. It's like you said you're strangled in your safety net. I mean, through, again, I'm 4.5 years sober. I have 5.5 years of no throwing up. I am getting my ass kicked by the anorexia, but I'm fighting. Like, I'm not taking it laying down. And I have a history of needing bailing out, or so for a long time, the bulimia. This might be good for some with addiction to understand. So, like, eating disorders are not addictions. They're mental health issues. They're totally different, right? But I get a lot from my mental health issues, meaning like shut down the brain. Actually, vomiting did better than alcohol. And it was like, when I look at the progression of how my disorders, like leaving out like CPTSD, like all that, leaving out all of those acronym stuff, if I just speak on, because this is what I'm an expert on. I'm an expert on my bullshit. So my bullshit is alcoholic, anorexic, and bulimic. Okay. So how they came in was anorexic, and then that got too much for that bitch. And so she brought in the bulimic. I learned how to do that in rehab, right? From the anorexia at 65 pounds. And then that got too much. So then alcoholic. And then when I look back how they knocked out, even though I have more time from the abstinence from vomiting, it's only because I tried to get sober in 2019. And the guy I was dating at the time said, listen, I'll help you do this without going to a hospital, but you have to promise me that you're not going to vomit, and you have to tell me if you do. And so I was like 2.5 weeks so into that round of sobriety, and I was like, holy shit. And I ended up abstinent and I just stayed with it. So then the bulimic went, and now I'm back down to the anorexic. So when I had the epiphany that it's not all of these things that I need to battle, it's like really like the anorexic is like the master puppeteer, you know, and kind of controlling the shit show. Um, I don't know.
When
Sorry.
when did the anorexia start? Did it start before the program or after the program?
Oh, long before. So I always attributed the beginning of my eating disorder to be when I was 2.5 because Helen would like make me eat food I didn't like. Like my mom left her a note that said Stephanie does not like boysenberry syrup, only likes maple. I'd be forced to eat maple or boysenberry. Tomato soup, Craig and I both hated it. And it was those cans of brains, like the stewed tomatoes, dumped in boiling hot water and served, and we had to eat it. And it was interesting. So I attributed it all of it to that. And then a specific memory because it is being at Helen's apartment and turned out her lesbian lover friend Esther. I just thought I was like 2, 3, 4, 5. I thought it was her friend. Like they have. I'm like, oh fuck yeah! Like adults have sleepovers. Cool, cool, cool. You know what I mean? I didn't think anything of it. Um, but she put me in a high chair when I was like 4 or 4.5, and spoon fed me, mocking me and making fun of me in like a huge room full of people at like a Christmas party thing she was hosting. So it was like a lot of shame, and then a lot of shame with my mom. I found food for comfort, and I would eat food, sneak food, whatever. My mom was like, "Are you sure you should be eating that?" And then shaming me for hiding the wrappers. But if I put the wrappers in the trash where they're supposed to go, she shamed me for eating the food. So I was like, I didn't know really what to do. But then my mom informed me that when I was born, so like she wanted my dad's building a sea import export seafood company, right? And they have a boy, he's almost 3. Now they have a girl. My mom's like, good, we're good. And ideal bliss for the first 7 days. And then I started crying and I wouldn't stop crying. And she was a seasoned mom at this point. She would do all the things, burp, check diaper, and bottle, not breast, bottle feed. And that was like the only thing that like shut me the fuck up, right? And so I was whoa. I talked to my therapist. I'm like, I think it goes back even further. And crying, comfort, bottle, soothing, and obviously not as an infant. I'm like, oh yeah, thank you. I'm getting all my needs met or whatever. But like that's when like hardcore like wiring is being done, and you're learning. So I get real like bummed out, like I have never had an appropriate relationship with food. So like people have been like, well, does that look like? Have you like no, I don't know. So, you know,
Okay.
yeah,
How long were you at Cascade?
2 years.
Okay, did you graduate?
Yeah. I hope. No, yeah, I did. I did 5 years of high school, and like I got a diploma thingy that said I graduated, but I have no idea if like I tossed it or if it's anywhere. But to my understanding, it's pretty fucking almost impossible to get any records. So,
Okay. And what about the program? Did you graduate the program? Like, did
yeah,
you finish it?
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
What was the shortest amount of time you saw somebody graduate in?
Oh, okay. So at Cascade, you like when your parents signed you in, they were signing you in for 2 years. And the only way out of there was either your 18th birthday and you're like, deuces, I'm out, or you split, brought back, split, brought back, split, wilderness, maybe back, or wilderness, Provo, Rocky Mountain. You know what I mean? Who knew? So there was like, it wasn't like I'm graduating early and like, yeah, no, it was like one time a year and you were there for 2 years. So like, my brain was already working. My mom's like, listen, on your 18th, if you come home on this home visit and you try not to come back, you go back, you're not allowed to stay here. So I was like, oh, okay. It gave me some things to think about. So I.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was kids there that were 12 that, and that either, that left when they were 14. So, and then like myself, my situation, even though it was my fifth year of high school, had I not gone to Cascade, because it really was like a pretty fucking rad education. If I hadn't gone to Cascade, I probably wouldn't have graduated anyway. So,
Okay. And so did you see people actually graduate after just 2 years, or were people there longer?
there was a couple people that, well, there's maybe quite a few people that were there longer. They called it third year. So it was like, let's say the person was like 16 when they went, when they did their junior and their senior year of high school, but they needed kind of a transition, because like that's the age that I was, and it was like crazy, like in these workshops and celebrations, like just a few months going to college prior to that, that you're talking about your inner child, and like you're doing this like crazy fucking far out emotional craziness. You know what I mean? And then it's like to go out into the real world, it's like culture shock. And so I think maybe that was some of the reason for some people's like fifth year, or but they pretty much they did some of the stuff, but not all of the stuff. Like they didn't have to go to forums or anything like that. It was just more like being in a safe environment, supportive environment.
Okay. And were you on any prescription medications before you went to Cascade?
No.
Okay, did they try and put you on any medications when you were in there?
No, actually, from my experience, during that time, it maybe it didn't come up for me. I know people were given meds. I know from a person that was on my trek with me, who um, that they were pushed on, just not my experience. But yeah.
Okay, so you heard about it happening, but it didn't happen to you. Um, um, how many people would you say on average were there when you got there, and how many people would you say were there when you left? Just make an estimation.
Under 100, maybe under 100 and 225 when I left.
Okay, and was it like mainly guys or mainly women, or was it a pretty even?
I would say there was more, I'd say there's more girls than guys, or it pretty even.
Okay, okay, and was it co-ed?
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, and like so when you would walk into the main lodge or the house, okay, where the main hangout dining room when I got there was off of that in the library and whatever in the house. I remember walking in on my first day. Autumn Joyce was doing my walk-in or my move-in, and there was a big pile of dudes laying on top of each other, and there's like all this like you know Crosby, Stills and Nash like music. Like I was like, what the fuck? I didn't know the rules yet. Any music out the window. And then there's a big pile of girls. I remember, being very confused, but it was, they encouraged you to be affectionate, but, like hold somebody while they cried kind of a thing, with the same sex
okay,
in a
and
non-sexual manner, providing comfort, right? Sisterhood, brotherhood type stuff.
okay, and was there smushing there?
That's smushing. That's what we
Yeah,
call it.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
I didn't know if that was just a Cascade thing or if that was yeah,
I think it's a Sea-Doo Cascade. I think a few other places might do it, but definitely Sea-Doo and Cascade do it.
which makes total fucking sense because if you know that Cascade is a direct shoot off or whatever of Sea-Doo, like
Yeah.
counselors in the middle of the night left Sea-Doo, went up, was, I don't know, I want to name names, that scabbit piece of shit. Anyway, went up there and started Cascade. So the school had been going for about 5 years, I think, when I got there. Yeah.
Okay.
So it makes sense that a lot of our like CEDU, they called the workshop celebrations that we had, those were called profits.
Okay. And how long after you got there did you go through your first profit? And how long after you got there did you get your first phone call? Did you get a phone call?
My first, so ours went celebrations, truth, youth, friends, and then it started into the workshop. So I would say by month three, my family, which is the group of about 12 to 15 kids that you come with right about the same time and do all those experiences with, um, yeah, probably 3 months in. And I want to say it was at least 2 weeks before a supervised 10-minute phone call, and it was every 2 weeks.
Okay.
They're always supervised, letters read in and out, magazines cut out, everything checked.
Okay. And did they have you doing child labor from when you got there? Like working kitchen, whether it was working kitchen, like sweep, like, cleaning up, like did they have you do that kind of stuff from when you got there?
Yeah, from like so at Cascade they called them agreements. They weren't
Okay.
rules.
Okay.
So I agree to. There's a lot of them, right? So when you broke an agreement, that the whole thing is be on the honor system, developing character, like own it, make a cop out list, and then punishment would be dishes, which is anything that you some of the dish runners were like dicks, right? They make a task like super hard because you had to do a certain way or whatever. But like daily, Monday through Friday, get up, make your bed. There's dorm chores, dorm cleanup or whatever. And then, sometimes Paula Rudy would be a bitch and like late at night call it dorm cleanup and you don't have to do that. But Saturdays were work crews. And that was like right after breakfast, do some dumb dance party. And then 3 hours, I think, of work crew. And then right after that, go up to the dorms and do the weekly dorm cleanup and then sandwiches, and then the afternoon was, I believe, like, yeah, I think the afternoon was yours, and then Sunday was it was nice. Sunday was your day off. Like I could wake up as late as 10:30, get an omelet, make your own omelet. If you're on the committee, you got to make omelets and stuff. And then you had to like 4 o'clock to be free, and then back to the dorms for dorm cleanup, and then dress up fancy or whatever dinner for Sunday night. Sundays were the best though. Like on on Atkins Creek, and we would go on like creek walks and stuff. And yeah, it was just to get any time away from the place was awesome. So
Okay. And was there any like grooming by staff that went on or any like sexual like any weird give
yeah,
you the creeps type of staff, like any of that
yeah,
kind of stuff going on?
yeah. So okay, Dan Berman. From the moment I got onto the campus and I was told that he was going to be my counselor, I'm all, this dude hates chicks, hates girls. I mean, he was so mean and dismissive and unattentive to anything about us. He was just like, it was like whatever, but he was all about the boys. And he is directly responsible for a suicide, who's cited in the suicide note of a person who is no longer here. Um, and I got the ick from the get-go, and I did not feel safe ever. And we would kind of talk about it like amongst the girls in my family, but it's just, isn't this weird? Isn't this weird? But you could never confront him. It wasn't safe to, because of what would come back around. And again, as the head of my family, he's gaslighting everybody, railing me for, you think you're, it's just, I was pretty good at that point of just staying silent, suffering silently, did it well, so.
Okay. And so you just
Oh, really quickly, in another one, uh, to that whole grooming thing. So they to rid of cliques, like couldn't wear makeup, clothing, all this kind of stuff. But the cliques ended up being with the counselors. So it was like the popular counselor, Scott Abbott, who was the adoption guy, and then Barb Cass, who was like the molested kids, and so on and so forth, right? So there's these like cliques or whatever on that. And, for sure, like Scott Abbott told, we need to go talk about the grooming, like absolutely preying upon girls who trusted him because of this issue, because he was like the go-to. And if you were like in his full, like you were good, you know what I mean? He looked out for his own. and he was harming them.
Okay,
So,
so it happened to other people, but not directly to you, but you just got the
no,
ick from them.
no, I got the ick. And the thing is because like, I remember he put me up for like the recycling committee to run it. He wanted me to run for vice president. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I remember doing the speech and whatever. I didn't win and I felt like a piece of shit. I knew it was like above my pay grade or whatever. And he's like, here, you get to run the recycling committee. And I ran that like a motherfucker. I was so proud of it. And I remember feeling ick because I felt like, yay, like I'm okay because of his praise and his attention. Like I it's so hard when you like needed something from somebody so bad and then at the same time it gives you the ick. It's very
Yeah.
confusing. But yeah, that's what makes those fuckers very good at what they do. But there's quite a few of them.
I think it's meant to throw you off, so it's easier to manipulate you.
Yeah, for sure. And
No?
like what's super scary is like to my understanding, that person is still practicing. So, and you know, yeah.
Okay.
So
Was there any suicide? Go ahead.
I said I think.
Okay.
I don't
Was
like to speak on speculation and like some of the stuff like I don't know because I don't research it because
yeah.
it fucks up my head. So
Yeah, no, no worries.
you're about suicide, yeah?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
YouTube, I will actually say the word because I don't think it's healthy for people to start or like we're just renaming shit all the time. It's just like it's no longer rape. He took advantage of her. It's no longer suicide. It's
This there,
unalived.
yeah. There's a difference between raping somebody and taking advantage of somebody. Ask the girl, the woman, the whoever, the man who
Yeah.
because that is a men too. Ask them how it felt if there's a difference. I've been taken advantage of and raped. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? There's a different, you know what I mean? There's a
Yeah.
there's a difference. So yeah. And I think it's important to, especially to say the word suicide, not to normalize it, but to call it what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just it also takes away the power from the word. Like if you don't say the actual word, like it doesn't get people's attention. Like it's those words like rape or suicide that gets people's attention like, oh shit, this is important. This is something I need to pay attention to. You know what I mean? So I just feel like it's not healthy. But were there any suicides on the campus?
Not while I was there.
Okay.
But there have been several, and someone I know right now is struggling with it. Um, Yeah, and Brian and I lost a friend in October, so it's
Okay. Okay, so more so prevalent for you after the program, but what didn't happen when you were there?
no.
Okay. Have you struggled with any probably, but have you struggled with any suicidal ideation after the program? And before
Yeah.
the program probably too, but like was it worsened after?
My I want to be careful of the word I use. My in I upped my game, so to speak. I was older. I knew more information. And I went from I the reason why I started to get tattoos, I have scars all over from domestic violence. It's like all kinds of shit. And you know some of them are from me trying to take my life when I cut my wrists. And so um yeah, and then I ended up with my dad's shotgun in my mouth at one point. So you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
The
it kind of escalated.
this the To me in that moment what really scared me was, I mean, just on so many levels, but it was like, wow, we've gotten to this, like the seriousness of it, the desperateness, the desperation. um yeah,
Yeah.
having to dig real deep in that moment. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And just for clarification, also YouTube and for anybody out there, I'm not condoning suicide at all. I just feel like it's important to talk about things like
yeah,
that. Like it's important to let people talk about what they've been through and also just to put a spotlight on stuff on people that have committed suicide. So just for clarification, I'm definitely not condoning it.
Well, I feel like, okay, if I may share something,
Yeah, yeah,
um, I have a real fucked up head,
yeah,
and it goes real dark.
yeah, me
And
too.
so something recently, my head, I wasn't getting answers. I wasn't getting, and my head just went dark, like super dark. And I was suffering with it. And I was afraid, and I tell Brian everything, but I was even afraid to tell him because he might look at me like, what the fuck? Like, how could you go? Well, when you've gone some places I've gone, like, you know, so I think it's important to talk about because being somebody that's been in that mindset, um, the thoughts are dark.
Yeah,
And it's not for someone to say, oh man, it's not like that. Or it's just listen and no judgment, no shame. Understand that they're sharing at their core, like what is hurting and where their head is, and just make space for that and love them.
yeah.
And, um, you know, uh, yeah, I'm sorry. I have a forefront of my mind. I have a friend from my program. We had a falling out. I didn't do anything wrong. I had just set a boundary. She didn't
Yeah,
like it.
yeah,
And anyway, but she kept talking about 52525. And she's I blocked her for a minute because I just had to protect my peace and stuff. But like I've been reaching out, I've been doing everything that I think I can possibly do. I,
it's okay. Take your time.
I'm very scared that she's I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You don't have to be sorry.
Okay. I'm 51 and I have raggies.
It's all
Never
good.
never mind. Sorry. So I out of like respect, I don't want to say her name, but
Oh
if
yeah, totally.
she's listening, like I just pray for the survivor because anybody who's at the point where they're wanting to take their life is a survivor of fucking something, right?
Yeah,
So if everybody would just take a moment and say a prayer, said whatever God, entity, universe, whatever prayer. Like I get weirded out. Like, why would you get mad by somebody saying, I'll pray for you? They didn't just kick you in the balls. They said, I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna take a moment out of my day and send good wishings upon to who I believe is the creator or whatever and provider. And therefore, like, I wish you well. People get
yeah,
mad. Like want to punch him in the face. So please don't want to punch me in the face for when I say it's for prayers, good juju. You know what I mean? And I think it'll cover, you
yeah,
know, the people who are suffering silently, or in this case, she's kind of out loud about it, which is like kind of odd. But like, I don't care if when it comes to suicide, if somebody cries wolf 1,000 times. And every time I've gone, it hasn't been that. They just needed me to show up. Like, I'm coming 1,000 fucking times. So, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, be mad, but, like, so.
yeah. No, I completely get that. Yeah, and it's definitely important. It's definitely important to talk about it. Let's see.
See, this is what happens when you're sober, dude. And, like, it's just feeling it in real time, and then release, which is like so not how like I was, you know what I mean? It was like bottle, 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 damage, 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 stab myself all over or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, that was probably a very, I didn't mean that. Oh shit. That didn't
Yeah.
sound right.
Theoretically,
Yeah.
theoretically.
Yeah. It was wrong choice of
Yeah.
words, but yeah,
Um,
I did them out of all the damage done to me. I
yeah.
did the most. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get it. Okay. What happened after you got back from the program?
I went like like they talk about and like with relapse, right? Like your life is shit. And you're like, I'm gonna get sober, and you get sober, and things get better, right? And whatever, and you're like, oh fuck it, I'm having a drink. Well, it like might go back to like where it sucked, but it's gonna get worse like super fast, right?
Oh yeah.
That's pretty
Faster
much,
every time. Every
yeah,
time you fuck it off faster,
yeah,
you know?
exactly, exactly. And
And I've
so,
done that, so I know. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I did too, and I was like, yeah, so I got home and reconnected with the boyfriend that I just started with before I went to Cascade. He's like, where the, that was a weird one. Yeah, I reunited now with people after 35 years. That's a trip, right? But like in just 2 years, he's like, where the fuck did you go? So we got together and I started at Marymount College, which was moving into a dorm, but it was an apartment complex that they had transformed into dorms, whatever. There's four of us, well, five girls total, three of us in the master bedroom too, and the other that was dating Chet still, and partying and not ever really attending class and vomiting all the time, but like I didn't know why. I ended up pregnant, and so had my first abortion and moved in with Chet, and then started really down the path of like really working hard on becoming the best anorexic I could be. So, um, it just went to shit. I went, ended up back with some of the same old friends, ended up back in the drugs. And yeah, then that just kicked off just a shit show of my brother makes a joke. He's like, my brother's like traveled the world and all this shit, and like worked for one of my dad's affiliates over in Bangkok for 3 years, and all over the place, and like he's got rad stories to tell. And my brother's like, no dude, he's like, you don't understand. He's like, you have rad stories, they're just not dinner party appropriate. So um you know there's a lot of bad choices. um yeah.
Okay.
So like my
And
mom, like it just is like 6 months ago, she's like, we spent all this money on Cascade and you said it helped you. How did it help you? Because look, and I'm like, like referencing like where I was before I got into recovery or whatever, like throwing it in my face. Um, yeah.
it's
So
just life experience. It's like I look at it as it's just life experience at this point. I don't really think there's maybe like one or two things I learned from the place I went, but it was more so about relationships. But I feel like it's just lived life experience at that point. That
yeah,
nobody else is really gonna like the average person isn't gonna have that fucking kind of level of experience, in my
yeah,
opinion. Like just going through something so fucked off and actually being able to survive it, and then
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And like, so like my mom will often say something shitty like, I told you so, or I told you that 15 years ago. And I used to get really frustrated, and I don't anymore. And I always tell her, thank you for the seed. In this life, whatever street you walked on, right? Unbeknownst to you, you've been amassing seeds, and you're like, got them all in your pocket there, right? And it's like, so every once in a while, I toss a couple in and spend a little bit of time and see what blossoms and grows. And like, the book I'm working on, my family says I do everything Stephanie, and I do. And so the book title is Stephanie, My Own Best Therapist. And it's not that I haven't had great therapists or shitty ones or friend hasn't told me something insightful or anything like that, but these like little seeds along the way that really at 65 pounds, like, thank you so much. Am I supposed to eat this? Like, I don't know put it in my overalls, right? And kept it moving. And now, it's like 46, 47, and now 51. I'm spending some time in cultivating and trying to understand what this fucking shit is that's coming in. But in my darkest moments, it's always been me that's gotten me through, whether it's meaning like the bad thoughts, the growth, the epiphanies, so like the best one for me is I practice what I preach. And so I talk about the 3 Ps, like when I am like debilitated, I can't leave the house, I can't even go to fucking Walmart to get my Tic Tacs. I do the 3 Ps, and they're do something purposeful, something productive, and then go see something pretty. And the third one's like usually the hardest, because that means like I have to get up and actually leave the house. So, I knock the other two off, and then I go after the third, and then like the other piece starts shifting. Like my perspective changes, my purpose shifts. And if my purpose and my perspective shifted on those other things, then I need to have a new plan. And then it starts to cycle all over again. Um, so I, there's, for at least Cascade, for me, it wasn't a total fucking waste. I would have liked to have been given these tools in a different manner by some different people, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I don't want anything to be a waste. I've done some fucking amazeballs things in some really dark places, and so, you know, love the lesson, hate the teacher, you know, and it like, the experience, at least for Cascade, for me, like if I separate out some stuff, right, and I get down to that 3%, what I'm finding in my adult life and the way that I am and is open and just like, here it is as I am, it's formulated these bonds with people that, like, when I'm in the shit, like, I know who to call, and I know I can say like the darkest fucking thing, and they're going to just hear it, receive it, and love me anyway, right? Um, so there's a blessing in that. So that 3%, which was the kids, the location, and the trek, that 3% is continually growing. And they say everybody's heard in the therapy world, right? Your world, right? And if it's like, here's your world, and it's like, here's you as a dot, and like all of this is your pain, you got to handle that shit, right? So you can grow bigger and bring other things in. It's not all going to go away, but it's like you want to change the ratio there, right? So I feel like more so today, Cascade, it saved my ass. It put a pin in what I was doing in the outside, which was, if left alone to do that, I wouldn't be sitting here to tell you.
Okay.
So,
What do you struggle with the most as a result of being sent there?
um, I've got like major, like major stuff. Like I can't have my back to a room. Um, Easily jumped. When confrontation, back down. Fear of like standing up for myself. People get scary, I just totally check out. There's all kinds of things. Like, yeah, I can't like, so I've walked straight up out. I've walked into AA meetings. I'm like, and no, phew, and I'm
Yeah.
out, you know. Um, so, but it's like I'm trying to think of like things specific, but with like CPTSD, right? Which is, I love that this is, now being identified, because it is complex. It's not just from one isolated incident, it's from like a lifetime of this shit.
Yeah.
So I get hit hard, and always, and it's kind of a rad story from my like like my like warrior moment. We were at Cup for NASCAR in Phoenix, and there's like hundreds of thousands of people, and I'm little, and Brian's tall, and The crowd just was enormous. I was so afraid I was going to freak out. So I just, he reached back and held my hand, and I just tucked up into his back and put my head down and just watched my theater, close my eyes, and navigated through that shit. It's like,
Nice.
you know, feel the fear and do it anyway sometimes, because then you realize that you are actually bigger than the fear or the anxiety or the, you just like Eminem says, you got to lose yourself in the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
If you could go in a time machine and not go through Cascade, knowing what you know now, would you do it and why?
um, I would, I'm glad I went. If I could go back and change anything, I think it would be, no, I know it would be to have been strong enough and filled my, like, I don't know, just spoken up about Dan Berman, got the girls in my family to, I don't know, like, now really quickly with the time machine, do you know what you're going back to go fix? And like, so you would be armed with the tools to go back and get it done?
I haven't really thought it through that much, so I don't know, possibly.
That's a good question, huh?
Haven't thought it through like that, no.
So if you like, if time machine, like if you think of Back to the Future, right?
Mhm.
Michael J. Fox knew what he was going back for, right? Like why he was going back, like he was on a search for
Yeah, to fix
something.
something, yeah. Yeah.
So in that case, like if you said a time machine and we're gonna go back in the DeLorean, right? Let's be cool. I'm a child of the 70s and the 80s. It was a big movie. And actually, that movie was filmed in the parking lot of a mall right by my parents' house. But in
Awesome.
Portland. But yeah, I would go back knowing what I know. And I would have been a warrior. I would have, I don't know if anything, it would have stopped anything. I don't know. But I would I would have risked anything, the consequences to myself, to be able to get that to stop.
Okay. And what do you think would have helped you instead of being sent away?
Honestly, totally different parenting.
Okay.
Um, uh, um, a teaching home where you weren't shamed for not knowing, and when nothing was explained. Um, Real safety. Yeah, if my mom had, honestly, because my mom is such a warrior in her own rights, you know what I mean? Um, Oh, jeez. All right. That's a loaded question. All right.
You kind of already answered it if you want to stick with that, you know?
Cool.
Okay. Um, and you tried talking to your parents, you tried showing them stuff.
Yeah.
Guess they're just not receptive.
If it's positive, they're like cool, you know. Um, but like it my mom is not a recognizer of more than one thing can be true, and more than one thing is actually always true, right? If
Yeah.
there's two people, there's more than one thing true, because the other person's experience is going to be different than yours, right? Period. Because it is, right? Um, yeah, it so if I contradict myself, I'm a hypocrite. Like it's not okay that I can love it and hate it at the same time. So and I think I have this theory, I may be wrong, but I don't think I am, and not that I'm totally right. I just believe it's a component of. And that is, my mom has a great need to be right. And the issues that my brother has with my mom are the same issues that I have with my mom. which are the same issues that my daughter has with my mom. But my mom will say, well, but you.
Yeah.
She doesn't own it, right? But her take with Cassidy is totally different. Where she tries to, but like she'll say Cassidy, she's doing the food thing to Cassidy that she did to me. And my daughter is overweight and she uses food for comfort. And my mom would be like, God damn it, Cassidy. And then, Pammy and the thing. And then my mom will like work on it. And rather than just like not do the behavior, she'll go up to Cassidy and go, have you noticed that I'm not making any comments about your food? Like, listen, like, do you like it anyway? And it just explodes. So, um, trying to, for her, if I save Cassidy, if I'm the one who ends up having the right idea or I'm getting it because I'm wise about this, like you can't be wise about something you haven't gone through. There's intelligence, there's wisdom, they're different, right? My dad's like, you're so wise, Pam. About what? Older, yeah. I mean, she's educated, college, yes. Okay, there's lots of things, but is she wise about a single mom? Nope, never been one. Feeling like one when my dad was traveling all the fucking time, building his whole empire, like that's not the same fucking thing, right? You had a nanny. Secondly, what do you fucking know about eating disorders? What do you know about alcoholism? What do you know about domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual assault? Send away to a fucking cult, like none, none, none. And yet she wants to stand in as a wise expert when it comes down to taking care of my kid. So I have this theory that my mom at 81, bless her heart, like who's taking this on, like I'm so grateful. I don't hear that I'm not. I'm terrified because it's like cycles repeat and they're not healed people and I'm in the process of really fucking getting healed. I'm hopeful, but like they're not looking to me at all. They're like looking to themselves. And my mom's need to be right is so if she is the one to save Cassidy, then Craig and I are just fucking full of shit and we can fuck off. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because look, Cassidy responded to my whatever, and they asked me, my dad said, don't come back in August, and here we are at the end of May, right? My kid is going to be 18 on the 29th. She's, I think, graduating from high school. I don't fucking know. The last time I heard from her was April 16th on my like 4.5 years of sobriety. Nothing since. And
So your parents essentially just kept your kid from you? Like that you
well,
didn't.
I think I can go to the house. Like I have a key, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
again,
yeah.
my dad's still running his business. He's been home since the pandemic started. My mom has cancer, so my dad feels like he has to still work. You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
like they have the money, the big beautiful house, and all the things and whatever, and
Yeah.
like, and so my parents always think I am the problem. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
wait a
yeah.
I'm not there anymore, right? Permit like all the time, and it has gotten worse, and like I'm a firm believer that when you have somebody who has like some diagnosis types things like OCD or whatever patterns and behavior, right? I know for me who has ADHD, OCD, and or the need I call it spatial relations like folding and whatnot. I got to break myself. So I have perfectly folded laundry. And Brian will come in and flop it over, not to be a dick, but to like offset me, throw me for a curveball, and I fucking love it. And like I mentally masturbate and see like how long I can like leave it like that before I have to like go and fix it, right? I'm a firm believer that when you are stuck in a rut in a routine and like you're, especially when it's one that you're controlling the most of, which is Cash, she's like manipulating and controlling the whole fucking shit show. Well, being thrown for a curveball is a good thing, right? In that moment, being thrown for the curve, what you weren't not expecting, you're gonna get raw emotion, and I keep saying, quit telling Cassidy that I'm coming. Don't say a word. And my dad's like, no, we're going to tell her, no, we're going to tell her. Well, the last time, guess what, Jordan?
What?
I said, Dad, please, if you say something, you take away my element of surprise. I've got one shot. One. This is only going to work once. You got to back the fuck off and let me do this. So my dad said, okay. And then to let it happen. And I knocked and I hadn't seen her, and this is in April. I hadn't seen her since Christmas, since I pissed her off, right? since Christmas. I have had 5 or 6 abortions. This is the one I chose to keep. It's killing me. And I knocked again and knocked again. I just waited and she finally opened the door. And we had a couple of visits, but now she's like disappeared again. So, um, but she also doesn't really talk to my parents either. It's like, she's like living in an apartment, rent free, but like an apartment meaning because like her room has everything, doesn't need to leave, you know, comes down when she feels like it. She's.
Yeah. For sure. Well, I'm sorry you're struggling with that. I hope things get better.
Thank
Um,
you.
and let's see. What made you stop at like get clean sober off alcohol?
Ooh, well, in 2017 on Halloween night, I almost killed myself. Um, 7 houses up from my parents' house. I was engaged to be married, working a high-end job, drinking, throwing up, and that was a wake-up call. I had to put the breathalyzer on my car. It sucked balls. As a mom, I was like the fun mom, you know, um, you know, didn't drink and drive with children. Okay, didn't do that. But you can imagine like how like what the fuck, those moms felt like, and I get it that when they heard what had happened, like the first thing was, have you ever driven my children? You know what I mean? Under the influence of alcohol, and the answer is no. So, um, so yeah, so I had that happen, and then my life fell apart. Doug and I we're still really like he's one of my bestest friends. We weren't meant to love each other that way forever, but we're meant to be friends forever. And I love the woman that he's with right now. They're like fucking rad. Like I really want Brian and I to do like a double date with them. They're super cool. Um, but Cassidy was super brave and went to Doug because she kept finding the alcohol bottles. I only drank wine and I only drank the little Sutter Home plastic bottles in the 4 pack because I knew how many calories, how many carbs. And I knew, especially after the DUI, with the breathalyzer, like for me at my weight and nothing I ate at that time because I was vomiting everything. It took me an hour to go from 0.08 to zero before, blowing the fucking thing. Um, and, shake the time. And so Cass went to Doug and said, I found another bottle. And Doug said, that's it. It was really brave of Cassidy because, like, we had finally gotten out of my parents' house. And then that's the other thing. Like, when my husband, Cassidy's dad, said, listen, like, I can't stay. We lived in Arizona. And he said to stay because, like, all of a sudden, all of his lies came to truth. And, like, wow, it's like a shit show. He said he had bought the house. He hadn't. He was paying rent, like he was paying the mortgage for a friend of his who at some point was going to turn it over, and he had not paid the water, not paid anything. The electricity is Arizona in June, like, 115 degrees outside, and I have a 13-month-old baby. And so at that point, his writing was on the wall, and I was like, I'm not doing this. And so I asked my dad if we could stay there. And I started to work for a company called the Hackett Group, and I raised my daughter for like almost 15 years with that company. Which and using my brain and without having a college education, just all the work experience, the sales background that I have. And so it's kind of amazing because like I don't know how I did that. I mean, I was starving myself and then I would eat and then I would vomit and then I would be drinking. Well, no, I was managing it with those two, being a mom and whatever. And then uh lost my shit. Like I totally derailed with the alcohol. Like and I just couldn't handle it anymore. And the guy I was dating at the time, who actually helped me get sober, and I think he felt really bad about what he did, but he put me in a wall one night when we were both drunk. But he'd been drinking whiskey, and the cops were there again. And if you look at my teeth, right, I like scar. In 1999, I got thrown out of a moving car and dragged, and the dude who we were together for 3.5 years. And knocked out my upper 4 front teeth. So there's that like started it, and then being bulimic for 26 years, So every single tooth in my mouth is an implant. And so it's been like an ongoing, very like long process. So to be at the end of another person's fist and have cops called, and it just, I decided that I needed to get sober so I could start making at least some safer decisions, especially, I found myself living in my Ford Flex for several days, because I was afraid to go to my parents' house because that's a house of horrors. Because by the way, the house I lived in and raised my daughter in is a house I was molested in, I was raped in, I almost blew my brains out in, did a bunch of drugs. I mean, just like, so called the house of horrors. So with the out of control troubled teen all under the same house during the pandemic. So
Yeah, my parents' house, my dad's house is still that I spent a lot of time there, and so going there is hard for me too. So, but yeah,
yeah, you understand. Like, do you get like the like tense? Yeah, but like cold and like tight and like I can't. It's like hard to breathe almost. It's just like I have to like self talk and sometimes count or like I tap on my clavicle to try to redirect, calm the fuck down because that's a lot.
yeah. So yeah, the last person that stayed in the apartment attached to my parents' house, somehow it caught on fire, and he's saying he didn't do it, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think he fucking got fucked up one night and fucking burned the entire thing down and fucking still won't admit to it. And fucking but yeah, I fucking so they remodeled the whole thing, and I was walking in there the other day, and I was walking just right in where my room used to be, because he like literally he pretty much snitched me out to my parents and said, yeah, you relapsed, he's doing drugs, and then they kicked me out of the house. And so I've never forgiven him for that, and I don't think I ever will. But yeah, I lost like a two-bedroom house attached to my parents' house. It's pretty fucked up. It's a long story, but it's
Sorry that
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It is what it is. I have an apartment now, but it was a really nice place. It had like a fucking sun deck, and like you could see like all the mountains in fucking Washington when you're
were
up there.
you peaceful there though?
What?
Were you peaceful there though, or were you ill at ease?
I I mean, I'm good on it. I mean.
No, like at the place at your parents, like was like at like was it a happy place or like
I mean, yes and no, because my dad has Alzheimer's, so living next to him actually resulted. It was like one of them. It was either I relapsed or I killed myself because I couldn't deal with the bullshit. I couldn't deal with it anymore. Just being that close to him and seeing
yeah.
him deteriorate and stuff like that. It is still kind of why it's hard for me to go over to my dad's house. So
Yeah.
I love my dad more than anything, but it, it's just, I don't want to fucking I know my triggers too well, like, and I don't
Yeah.
want to put myself in that situation because so I guess it's good that I'm not living there anymore, but also it's just like it sucks to be snitched out by like somebody that you went to school since like seventh grade with, and like
Yeah.
supposed to be your friend and have your back, and like instead of coming and talking to you and being like, hey, like I noticed you're doing this. Like, let's work on it together. Just like going behind your back to your parents and be like, yeah, you fucking relapsed. Like, wow, you're doing drugs at the same time. Like, it's not even that he's sober. He literally just like fucking threw me under the bus to my parents,
Yeah.
and it's fucked up. But yeah, so yeah, I get it. It's hard to go back to family home and stuff like that. There was a lot of good times at that place though too. I grew
Yeah.
up in that house. I grew up in that house, but my childhood wasn't like it was decent. Like I had a lot of better childhood than a lot of people, but there was still abuse. There was still stuff that happened. There was still a tense environment I grew up in, but it was just different. Um, yeah, my parents were both hippie flower children, like so they're just like completely laid back, but also just like there was a lot of arguing and like yelling and stuff like that when I was growing up. And yeah, there was a little bit of abuse like that I don't really want to go into because I don't want to implement any of my parents in some shit. But yeah, but yeah, it was hard at times, but it's just hard going back there.
Yeah.
It's just hard going back there for sure. But is there anything else you want people to know about your experience?
No, I mean, I know there's so much. I mean, but it's like I just for anybody that listen that you if you ever need somebody to talk to who s- understands and no judgment will hear you and I'll do whatever I can. Just I really like after that meetup with Ian, like so, it's just so important just to show up. You know what I mean? Sometimes people don't even need to say anything; they just need somebody to sit beside them or whatever. So I'm always here for support, encouragement. If anybody has any experiences that they relate with that could be helpful or resources, I'm open. So.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And if there's anything you want to cover, like if you forgot stuff and want to do a part two, we can make that happen.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan. It was really nice doing this. I appreciate the space. Um, I it's so much like right now and just and it's really relevant in that I have a troubled teen, you know, and um yeah. Nice. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And if you've watched so
Thank
far
you.
in the video, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, hit the notification bell so you get updated on all episodes. Leave a comment down below. I would love to meet you. And then what was a lot? Yeah. Oh yeah, and then share the videos. Share the videos. Let's keep on sharing them and getting the word out there about these places. Until next time, we will catch you on the next one.